Ma'am, we're only here to help you this afternoon. Please cooperate for everyone's safety, all right?
I just want to feel safe inside my home, please. That's all, ma'am.
July 4th, 2025. The suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. Usually, the air here smells of freshly cut grass and charcoal grills, the quintessential scent of an American holiday. But today, the air on Oakwood Drive smells of something else entirely, a sharp, chemical pungency that stings the eyes and throat from 50 feet away. Officer Miller arrives on the scene expecting a noise complaint, perhaps a dispute over fireworks. Instead, he finds a scene of medical chaos. A man is on his knees in his own driveway, clawing at his eyes, screaming in a language of pure agony. His wife is pouring bottled water over his face, sobbing, while their 2 young children scream in terror from the porch. Standing at the property line, separated by a pristine white vinyl fence, is 62-year-old Barbara. She is not rushing to help. She is not calling 911. She is standing with her feet planted shoulder-width apart, holding a large canister of Hornet and Wasp killer, like a gunslinger holding a smoking Colt. She looks at the writhing man, then at Officer Miller, and her expression isn't one of guilt or fear. It is one of satisfaction. She believes she has just won a war. She has no idea that she has just committed a felony in front of multiple witnesses and that her life as a respected member of the Homeowners Association is about to end in the back of a squad car. If you believe that self-defense laws are not a license to chemically burn your neighbors because you don't like their music, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button right now. We are about to dissect a case where entitlement meets a neurotoxin, and the results are absolutely catastrophic. To understand the gravity of what is happening on this lawn, we have to look past the immediate chaos and understand the psychology of the aggressor. Barbara represents a specific archetype of suburban offender, the territorial narcissist. For years, she has viewed her property line not just as a legal boundary, but as a moral event horizon. Inside her fence, she is the supreme authority. Outside her fence, she views everything as a potential threat. The victims, the Martinez family, moved in 3 months ago. Since then, Barbara has called the police on them 12 times. For parking too close to her mailbox. For their grass being half an inch too long. For the color of their curtains. Each time, the police explained that no crimes were being committed. Each time, Barbara felt the system was failing her. In her mind, the police were incompetent, and the protection of her sanctuary fell to her. Today, the Martinez family was hosting a barbecue. There was music. There was laughter. There was smoke from a grill. To a reasonable person, this is a celebration. To Barbara, it was an invasion. She stewed in her living room, watching them through the blinds, convincing herself that their joy was a direct act of aggression against her peace. This cognitive distortion is crucial to understanding what happened next. She didn't walk outside to talk. She walked outside to punish. Officer Miller bypasses Barbara initially, rushing to the victim, Mr. Martinez. The man's face is red and blistering. Wasp spray is not like pepper spray. Pepper spray is an inflammatory agent derived from cayenne peppers. It hurts, but it washes off. Wasp spray is a poison. It contains pyrethroids, neurotoxins designed to drop insects instantly by attacking their nervous systems. It is not meant for human contact. It can cause blindness, respiratory failure, and permanent nerve damage. Miller calls for EMS immediately, upgrading the call to a chemical injury. He can hear Barbara yelling from her yard. I told them to turn it down. I told them to stop the smoke. She is shouting over the screams of the man she just injured, completely unable to process the disparity between her grievance, noise/smoke, and her reaction, chemical warfare. Miller directs his partner to secure the scene and approaches the property line. He keeps his hand near his holster, not because he thinks she has a gun, but because someone willing to spray poison at a neighbor is unpredictable and dangerous. This brings us to the weapon itself. There is a persistent myth in certain online communities and neighborhood watch groups that wasp spray is a better alternative to pepper spray for self-defense. The logic is that it shoots farther and is more accurate. This is legally and medically disastrous advice. Using a pesticide on a human being is a violation of federal law. The label literally says, it is a violation of federal law to use this product in a manner inconsistent with its labeling, but more importantly, it upgrades a simple assault charge to assault with a deadly weapon or aggravated battery. If you spray someone with pepper spray, you might face a misdemeanor. If you spray them with a neurotoxin that can blind them, you are looking at a felony that carries significant prison time. Barbara is holding the can casually, unaware that she is holding the evidence that will send her to prison. When Miller approaches, she gestures with the can. You see what I had to do? They wouldn't listen. I warned them. She thinks the can is her shield. In reality, it is her handcuffs. The interaction begins. Miller is calm, his voice steady. He needs to disarm her before he can interview her. Ma'am, put the can down. Put it on the ground and step away from it. Barbara hesitates. I need this for protection. They are aggressive. You see how many of them there are. She gestures to the family gathering, grandmothers, children, friends, who are huddled around the injured man. She sees a mob, Miller sees a family picnic. Ma'am, put the can down now or I will make you put it down. The tone shift registers. Barbara sets the can on her porch railing, but she doesn't step back. She crosses her arms, adopting the pose of a disappointed schoolteacher. Finally, you're here. I called you 20 minutes ago about the noise. If you had done your job, I wouldn't have had to defend myself. This is the core of her delusion. She believes her violence is the fault of the police for not enforcing her arbitrary rules. She believed she was deputized by necessity. Miller steps onto her walkway. He activates the full recording buffer on his body camera. Tell me exactly what happened, he says. He isn't asking because he doesn't know, he saw the victim. He is asking because he wants her to confess while she still thinks she is the hero. And Barbara delivers. They started that fire, she says, pointing at the grill. The smoke was coming into my lanai. I have asthma. I told them to put it out. He laughed at me. He turned the music up. I felt threatened. He walked towards the fence. I knew he was going to jump it. I knew it. So I went inside, grabbed the spray, and I let him have it. I stopped the threat, officer. Just like you would. She equates a man flipping burgers near a fence with a suspect charging an officer with a knife. The false equivalency is staggering. She has constructed a narrative where smoke is violence and music is assault, therefore justifying her use of actual force. He walked toward the fence. Miller clarifies. Did he cross the fence line? Barbara scoffs. He was going to. I could see it in his eyes. He has those, aggressive eyes. The racial coding in her language is subtle but present. She is projecting criminality onto a man standing in his own yard. So he was on his property the entire time. Miller presses. He was at the line, Barbara insists. He was shouting. He said, "Lady, go back inside." That is a threat. He was trying to intimidate me in my own home. Miller notes this mentally. Telling a neighbor to go inside is not a threat of death or great bodily harm. It is a verbal dispute. And in the state of Georgia, like most states, you cannot use physical force. Especially a weapon, in response to words. The stand your ground law she is likely relying on in her head requires a reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm. A neighbor telling you to go away does not meet that standard. So you sprayed him because he yelled at you and you thought he might cross the fence. Miller asks, locking in the confession. I sprayed him because he was assaulting me with smoke and noise and aggression. Barbara yells, getting agitated that Miller isn't congratulating her. I have a right to the quiet enjoyment of my property. That is the law. Miller nods. There are noise ordinances, yes. But the remedy for a noise ordinance violation is a citation, Barbara. It is not chemical warfare. Barbara blinks, confused. I didn't hurt him. I just taught him a lesson. It's just bug spray. It stings a little. He's being dramatic. Look at him rolling around. It's a performance. She looks at the man screaming in agony with complete detachment. This lack of empathy is the chilling final piece of the puzzle. She has dehumanized her neighbors to the point where their physical suffering is just an annoyance to her. EMS is now loading Mr. Martinez onto a stretcher. His eyes are swollen shut. The paramedics are flushing them with saline, but he is in excruciating pain. Miller receives a signal from his partner. They have statements from 3 witnesses, all confirming Mr. Martinez was standing by his grill, holding a spatula, not a weapon, when Barbara walked up to the fence and unleashed a stream of chemicals into his face from 3 feet away. There was no lunging. There was no threat. Just a man cooking hot dogs and a woman who decided she had had enough. The investigation phase is over. The enforcement phase begins. Miller turns to Barbara. "Ma'am, turn around. You are under arrest." The shock on Barbara's face is genuine. It is the shock of a person who has lived their entire life protected by social status and the benefit of the doubt. Arrest? Me? You're arresting the wrong person. He is the one disturbing the peace. I am the victim here. She backs away toward her front door. I am not going anywhere with you. I want to speak to your supervisor. I know the sheriff. We play bridge with his mother. This is the status shield attempt. She tries to use her connections to override the law. Miller steps forward, his demeanor hardening. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for aggravated battery. Stop backing up or I will add resisting to the charges." Barbara stops, but she doesn't comply. She freezes, her mind unable to compute the reality that the handcuffs are meant for her wrists. Miller grabs her wrist to cuff her. Barbara shrieks. "Don't touch me. Rape. Assault. Help." She screams it at the top of her lungs, hoping the neighbors, the same ones she terrorizes, will come to her aid. It is a desperate, manipulative tactic. She goes limp, forcing Miller and his partner to hold her up to keep her from hitting the concrete. "I have bad knees. You're breaking my legs," she wails. This is incarceritis setting in immediately. The woman who was physically capable of waging chemical warfare 30 seconds ago is now suddenly invalid. The officers are professionals. They don't drag her, they support her weight, march her to the car, and secure her in the back seat. The click of the door locking is the sound of her world shrinking down to a 4x4 cage. Inside the patrol car, the isolation hits. Barbara is alone. There is no audience to perform for. There is just the hard plastic seat and the smell of the previous arrestee. She begins to bargain with the air. "I can pay a fine. I'll pay a fine right now. How much is it? Just let me go back inside. My pot roast is in the oven. It's going to burn." The banality of her concern, a pot roast, contrasted with the man she just blinded, is grotesque. It highlights her complete disconnection from the harm she caused. She genuinely believes this is a misunderstanding that can be fixed with money or a conversation. She pounds on the glass. "Officer. My stove. You have to let me turn off my stove." Miller ignores her. The fire department is already on scene for the chemical washdown, they can handle a stove. The drive to the precinct is a journey through the stages of grief. Denial. This isn't happening. This is a prank. Anger, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue the department. I'm going to own your pension. Bargaining, if you let me go, I'll move. I swear, I'll list the house tomorrow. Depression, silence, followed by quiet sobbing. And finally, acceptance. No. Acceptance never comes for people like Barbara. She circles back to anger. It's because I'm white, isn't it? If I were one of them, you'd be kneeling for me. The racial animus that was bubbling under the surface finally erupts. She reveals the true motivation behind the attack. It wasn't the noise. It wasn't the smoke. It was the fact that a family she deemed other had the audacity to be happy in her proximity. At the station, the booking process strips away the last vestiges of her dignity. Her jewelry is removed. Her comfortable shoes are taken. She is fingerprinted. And then, the mugshot. She tries to fix her hair, to look dignified, but the harsh fluorescent lighting is unforgiving. She looks exactly like what she is, an angry, hateful woman who lost control. When she is placed in the holding cell, she demands a private room. I can't be in here with these criminals, she says, gesturing to a young woman sleeping on a bench who was brought in for an unpaid traffic ticket. The irony is lost on her. In the eyes of the law, Barbara, the violent felon who used a chemical weapon, is the most dangerous person in that cell. The legal fallout begins the next morning. Barbara appears before a judge for her bond hearing via video link. She is wearing an orange jumpsuit that clashes horribly with her complexion. The prosecutor reads the facts of the case. The defendant approached the victim, who was unarmed and on his own property, and sprayed a chemical neurotoxin into his face and eyes from close range. The victim has suffered corneal burns and respiratory distress. We are charging this as aggravated battery causing great bodily harm. The judge sets bail at $50,000 and orders a strict no-contact order. She cannot return to her home if the victims are present. She has effectively evicted herself. Barbara gasps. But that's my house. Where am I supposed to go? The judge looks over his glasses. That is not the court's concern, ma'am. You forfeited your right to be a neighbor when you attacked one. Let's break down the legal reality of self-defense versus what Barbara did. Self-defense laws, including Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground, are not blanket permissions to hurt people you dislike. They require three key elements: imminence, necessity, and proportionality. Imminence means the threat is happening right now. A man grilling hot dogs is not an imminent threat. Necessity means you had no other choice but to use force to prevent harm. Barbara could have gone inside. She could have closed her windows. She chose to engage. Proportionality means the force used must match the threat. You cannot use lethal or maiming force, and Wasp spray is maiming force, against a non-physical threat like smoke or noise. Barbara failed all three tests. Her actions were not defensive, they were punitive. She wanted to punish them for existing, and she used the language of self-defense to mask her aggression. The weapon choice, Wasp spray, is a critical aggravating factor. If she had used pepper spray, a lawyer might argue she simply made a mistake in judgment regarding non-lethal force. But Wasp spray is a poison. Using it implies a desire to cause permanent damage. It tells the jury, I didn't just want him to stop, I wanted him to suffer. Prosecutors love these cases because the intent is written on the can. The label warnings she ignored become evidence of her recklessness. She turned a household item into a weapon of opportunity, and in doing so, she upgraded her own charges. The psychological friction in this story comes from the good neighbor paradox. Barbara likely viewed herself as the protector of the neighborhood standards. She probably told herself she was doing this for everyone, to keep property values up, to keep the riff-raff in line. This vigilante mindset allows people to commit horrific acts while maintaining a moral high ground in their own minds. When the police arrested her, it shattered that self-image. She couldn't process that she was the bad guy. This is why she resisted. She wasn't fighting the officers, she was fighting the reality that her entire worldview was false. 6 months later. The legal battle has drained Barbara's retirement savings. She pleaded down to a lesser felony to avoid prison time, but the consequences are severe. She is on probation for 5 years. She has a permanent felony record. She was forced to sell her house to pay for the settlement with the Martinez family, who sued her for medical bills and pain and suffering. She now lives in a small apartment complex 3 towns over. She doesn't have a yard. She doesn't have a fence. And when her neighbors play loud music, she closes her blinds and sits in the dark, because she knows now that the police aren't there to enforce her preferences. They are there to enforce the law. The Martinez family recovered, though Mr. Martinez has permanent sensitivity to light in his left eye. They still host barbecues. They still play music. The neighborhood is quieter now, not because the noise stopped, but because the source of the toxicity is gone. Barbara's legacy on Oakwood Drive isn't one of a protector, but of a cautionary tale. She proved that you can live in a nice house, drive a nice car, and have a clean record, and still be one bad decision away from losing it all. She thought she was above the law because of who she was. She found out that the law only cares about what you do. So, I have to ask you. Do you think Barbara actually feared for her safety, or was she just so used to getting her way that she felt entitled to use violence when she didn't? Let me know your thoughts in the comment. Do remember to hit the subscribe button, like and share this story, and I'll see you in the next one.